Welcome to A Walk in My Stilettos, where our goal is to help you walk in your greatness. I'm your host, McKinney Smith. Hello, Faith Walkers. Thank you for joining us. The purpose of this show is to inspire you to walk in your greatness. We have conversations with amazing women that are letting us step into their stilettos. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding. But as a mindset coach, what inspires me more is their backstory and their mindset on how they got there. So today's guest is about to bless us with her testimony. And since you're already here, you may as well subscribe. Today we have Samantha Clarke. She's a lawyer, an award-winning international photographer. Samantha's portfolio boasts over 75 publications since 2011 in prestigious media outlets including EBONY magazine, Essence, Wedluxe, Martha Stewart Weddings. Samantha's practice employment and disability law in Toronto and also makes it her mission to mentor and educate within the creative community through workshops and coaching. Please welcome to the show, Samantha Clarke.
Thank you so much, McKinney.
You're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to come on and to share your story with us.
No problem. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So I love to start the show with an icebreaker question because as women, especially women entrepreneurs, we have so many different titles that we go by. And I feel like a title that means a lot that isn't given enough credit is our name because it has a meaning. It comes from somewhere. And when people are calling us our name throughout the day, they're basically declaring the meaning of it over and over and over again over our lives. So I like to ask women, do you know what your name means? So my first question to you, Samantha, is do you know what your name means?
I think there's a biblical relation to it. I know my mom was inspired by the story of Samson and his strength. And yeah, so I don't know the exact meaning, but I know that there's strength in there, at least from my mother's point of view. There was something in there about strength, but I'm not sure exactly what it is.
So I know that many names, have different meanings in different languages. But when I looked up Samantha, the Hebrew origin of it means God has heard.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
No.
So every time that someone is calling your name, it's like God has heard you.
Okay.
So
what does your name mean? I'm curious what your name means, McKinney.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a funny backstory behind that. So my father has a thing for African names. And growing up, I remember asking my parents, like, what does my name mean? Because people would ask that all the time. They're like, McKinney. Like, wow, that's different.
Right.
What does that mean? And my parents always told me that it meant beautiful one. So when people used to ask me, what does McKinney mean? I'm like, it means beautiful. And then they'd compliment me and swell my head. But then as I became an adult, as we become an adult, we start to search because we realize that half the things our parents told us were a lie. And when I did my own research, I found out that McKinney is Swahili for strength of character.
Ooh, okay.
So I like that better.
Yeah, I love that.
What did you want to be when you were a little girl?
I always wanted to be a judge. And I was like, okay, how do I become a judge? And then I learned that I had to be a lawyer first. So I was like, okay, so I'll be a lawyer and then I'll be a judge. And it was mainly because there was a picture of a woman on a Share magazine or a Share newspaper, which is, so common within the West Indian culture in Toronto. And there was a woman on the front of the cover, a Black woman. I don't know how old I was. I'm sure my mom will remember my age, but I told my mom I liked her and she was like, oh, she's a judge. And I was like, I want to be just like her on the cover of this Share paper. And since then, it was something I focused on. And I sort of just imagined myself being an advocate, helping people, telling stories from the perspective of, a person who is sort of in need of help. So that was sort of my goal from a very early age.
Okay, so you decided to pursue law because that's the route to be a judge. Do you still want to be a judge or?
I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily an important goal of mine. I would say that what's kind of interesting is in my journey to becoming a lawyer, I learned my passion has to do with people. So it's not so much about the law per se, which I did enjoy as a career. I learned that I'm passionate about telling stories. So as a lawyer, I would tell stories of my clients and try to persuade and convince the judge or the court or whatever the case may be. And it's interesting how even now, as my career has allowed me to in photography, I'm still able to tell stories, but it's through a visual means. So it's interesting what my passion really is or was had to do with people and service. And that's what I feel is still very important to me even.
So you know what I think is really interesting, and usually when I interview women that come on the show, I try and interview women that I already have a connection with, women that I already follow because I'm inspired by your journey. And we were connected on social media for a very long time before I actually met you in person. And
Yes.
when I met you in person, I believe it was at Carlin Purcell's Sister Talk event, the one on sisterhood. And
Yes.
you were there with your mom, which I think is absolutely beautiful. Right. Okay. So
Yes.
we met first at Carlin's event, and I saw you with your mom, and I thought that was powerful. And then we reconnected when you did a shoot for my children and I, which were absolutely beautiful photos. And it wasn't until another photographer friend of mine who also does international photography, Shemayim, when
Yes.
I so I brought him here to Toronto to shoot my daughter's portfolio, and when he spoke at your workshop at your event, and you were sharing that you also practice law, I thought, holy crap, I've been following you for so long and I had no clue. Like your passion for photography is so strong that that was like what I was focused on. I had
Right.
no idea that you were in law. So what inspired, like, we already know what inspired the law journey, but share how that started for you. What was that process like for you getting into law?
Okay, so I did my undergrad in the United States. I pursued political science, like a pre-law degree, and I literally it was funny because like at that time when I was trying to choose my major for university, I wanted to find a way to study photography in addition to pursuing law. This is like I was 17 or, whenever. I can't remember. That was so long ago. And I was like, okay, I want to be a lawyer, but I also love photography. Like I knew for a very long time that I wanted to do something in photography, but I didn't really know that it was possible. So I pursued the career path that I wanted to pursue from a young age. And I felt like I would be good at it. Math wasn't my thing. So I'm like, okay, let's go into law and see where that takes me. And I was so fortunate to study in the US at an HBCU, Go Bulldogs. I went to South Carolina State University.
Nice.
A lot of people don't even know because I'm Canadian, and then I ended up at an HBCU, pursuing a pre-law degree. And while I was doing pre-law, I was always sort of inspired by photos and photography, but law was still the focus of my career path. And I did a master's degree, then I also went to law school. And it was always just something I was passionate about, especially equal justice, just equality in general, and social issues affecting minorities and low income people. That was always my passion. And so, being a lawyer is not as glamorous as television or movies makes you think. So my life on social media really focused on my photography journey because that was easy to share online. Photography, it's pretty, there's beautiful things going on. Whereas in law, I was dealing with people who were really down and out, like very serious situations, very stressful, emotional situations that it's not cute. It's not something online or to talk about, especially with the confidentiality issue. So I didn't get into that as much on social media, but people kind of knew if they were aware of sort of my educational background. They saw that I was a lawyer, but it wasn't something I promoted per se.
Right. Wow. Okay. Like you said, the majority of your passion that you show online is the photography side of it. And I
Exactly.
think it's so beautiful how you capture what I love is how you capture the couples because I'm just a huge lover of love. That's my soft spot.
Yes, me
But
too.
but you're like traveling the world, taking pictures of beautiful couples. Like what inspires you the most about what you do?
I am definitely inspired by people's stories of perseverance, love. I do find that a lot of my couples have very interesting love stories, and
Mhm.
sometimes we don't see that. Once again, social media, it's all about, the beautiful outfits and the beautiful, hair, makeup, all of that. But there's usually a deeper story behind it about how the couple maybe endured long distance, or maybe, this is their second love. Maybe they had a rough go the first time they fell in love, and now they found someone who truly loves them. And I do find the stories of people's families coming together, people's cultures coming together, especially
Mhm.
nowadays. You see a lot of people from different countries, different religions falling in love, and you see how love, knows no boundaries. And I'm inspired
Right.
by that. And I do find it interesting to capture it. And I imagine in the future, 20 years, 40 years, who knows, down the road, that the photos will have a very important role in the lives of their children and their great grandchildren. So I do think of what I do as it's about legacy. And I think that's the most inspiring part of it that just keeps me going.
I love it. I love it. Like on your
Mhm.
website, you have a quote that says, "My role as your photographer is to help you tell your story."
Mhm.
I'm big on people telling their story, owning their story, because I believe that there is
Mhm.
so much power in it, not only for ourselves, but for others to help inspire them and to help them to continue along on their journey. So
Mhm.
I almost want to know, like, where did that come from for you? Your love
Mm.
for the storytelling.
Mhm. That's a really good question. I think for me, so I should mention, I've always been inspired by photos.
Mhm.
Always wanted to know, sort of more of the backstory behind the photo. Sometimes I let my imagination,
Mm.
more about that story that I'm seeing in a photo. But even just on a personal level, I am I'm married, and my husband and I spent most of our dating life apart. So I was pursuing my education, doing my master's, doing law school, and he was also pursuing higher education with his master's. And we spent a lot of time in different countries. I studied,
Wow.
yeah, like, and this was before we were married. So it's usually a time where you're trying to like get to know someone and build a relationship. And we did that remotely, basically, like phone calls,
Yeah, long distance
FaceTime.
relationships work, people. Take notes, take notes.
Yes, they do. They really do. And it was really special whenever we did, have time together. It was special.
Mhm.
Our photos, like, so I valued the photos that we had because we weren't together a lot of the time that we were dating. So
Right.
it really made me feel like, okay, this is actually really valuable. And I think a lot of my couples are in similar positions because a lot of people really want to pursue their careers. They don't want to necessarily give up their hopes and dreams. And not that there's anything wrong with it if you decide to pursue your hopes and dreams, but we as women are pursuing our careers, we're pursuing our jobs, and sometimes the relationship that you're in may not fit that. So you find a way to have it all. You find a way,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to travel, I'm going to spend time with my boo, and then I'm going to head back to work, back to school because I got to get this done. And
Right.
I mean, it's so common nowadays. And so I have found that my goal in photography is providing people with images that sort of bring them joy every time they look at them. They're like, oh man,
Mhm.
really special. And it's like a little keepsake to keep you going if you happen to be in a long distance relationship or whatever the case may be, because life is just, that's just how things are going nowadays.
I think you are like this beautiful beacon of light to give hope to so many different things. Like you show that long distance relationships can and do work, not only during the
Mhm.
dating process, but, once you get married, and how
Mhm.
living in different countries and still pursuing your passion, you're not sacrificing and giving up everything that you dreamed of, for
Mhm.
this other person, where you're still both happy and content, and you were able to do that, separately, so that when you do come together, that
Mhm.
happiness is valued. And then you also are an example that you don't have to choose just one of your passions. Many people feel like, oh
Mhm.
my God, I can only do this, or I have to only focus on this. You've shown that you can have and be successful at two things. So how do you balance the two with law and photography?
Mhm. So I'm very, very much of the mindset that you don't necessarily have to choose. At this stage now, I am not practicing law
Mhm.
because my business has literally my photography business has taken off to a point where I travel during the week, and it wouldn't be possible for me to be sitting in a law firm or, just sort of serving my law clients that way. So I decided
Mhm.
it just wasn't going to fit. But that, it's interesting because that transition was maybe 8 years into running my photography business. I
Mhm.
I didn't just jump. I didn't just take a leap and say, "Well, the net's gonna arrive." Like I took my time. I saved up my money. I made sure that I was doing things in a way that made sense to me. I didn't necessarily, plan to just take a leap of faith on my business, which is,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people do that and I admire that, but I didn't want to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, totally
Wanted to
understand.
have yeah, I wanted to have myself set up a little bit to where my business was in a good position. And so finding the balance though while I was doing both, it was challenging to be honest. I do think that some aspects of my business had to suffer because being a lawyer is a very huge responsibility. So I didn't take it lightly. I gave my all to that job, and I really did have to limit how many jobs I took photography wise. I limited the time that I would dedicate to at that time my side hustle. I used my weekends, used my evenings, and I tried to juggle both, but balance it was very, very challenging. I really admire people who find a way to do it well. I realized that I wanted to travel more. I didn't want to be at my desk and feel obligated to report to my desk on at Monday at 9 a.m.
Right.
I can't do this. So I took my legal practice. I'm still licensed to practice law, but I'm not taking legal clients at this time.
Mhm.
And so now I can really do the traveling. I can spend more time with family, which was a challenge, trying to run two almost full-time jobs, it felt like, and spend time with family and do things for myself as well. It was nearly impossible to do both.
Mhm.
That's what I had to do.
So you mentioned that, you have a love for traveling, and from your beautiful couples photos all over the world, like, how much do you get to travel now?
So I'm so grateful to have clients who trust me to travel. I At this time I think I travel maybe I don't want to say every week because that's a bit, but it
It
feels like
seems
that.
that
Like
way though.
I my bag is like always packed, and I would say maybe every other week I'm either flying somewhere in the US or back to Toronto where I'm originally from, and sometimes I get to do some cool jobs in the Caribbean or in Europe. So it I would say at least twice a month. And I don't know if road trips count because sometimes I do road trips
It
to
counts as
close by
travel.
city. Okay,
Yep.
well, so I would say almost every week I'm somewhere, and I always have my bag like halfway packed because I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna have to go somewhere again soon. So no point in unpacking. I'm one of those people.
Like, so you're living the dream. Like, you get to travel the world. You get to take beautiful photos of people who are in love. You get to capture moments. You get to help them share their stories. That's
Mm.
amazing.
It is. It's also tiring.
Of
I'm not
course.
gonna lie. Sometimes, like when I get back from a trip, I am so tired, and sometimes it's embarrassing because I'm just like, I can't do anything. Like usually I get into a routine when I'm home. I'll like go to the gym in the morning, and then I'll, like sit down and respond to emails, and I have this nice little routine. And then when I travel, which is almost every other week, that whole routine goes out the window. And then like a few days to get back into like my gym routine and like cooking or whatever. And then I travel again and it gets all, off track. So I'm still navigating what it's like to be all over the place and like
You're still figuring it out.
I am.
Yeah.
I would all the answers, I think I still love it. I do find now I'm more selective about the jobs that I take. So if I'm traveling, I'm like, okay, all right, how far am I going? Where am I staying? What flight am I on? I'm not trying to fly too late or, like I'm
right.
a lot more selective. And I think that's really important too. Like it's definitely, I love it. I always love what I do, but you also have to learn to say no when it serve you, and your priorities. And my priorities right now are family and of course my clients. And luckily I have great clients, so I never have any issues there. But it's important to sort of keep yourself at the top of your to-do list.
Yeah.
It's easily pushed to the side,
Yeah.
So I definitely am still working on that. That's a work in progress.
Girl, we all are, okay? Nobody has it completely figured out. Only God knows the beginning and the end. We
That's
have,
right.
freedom of choice to do things, but we're all still figuring it out. There is no handbook on life that works for every single person. So kudos to you.
True. That is so true. And I get the question. I'm sure you do too. Like, how do you do it? Especially running a business and for you being a mother as well and being, just pulled in so many different directions. I don't think there's a perfect answer. And I think what works for one person may not work for someone else. So it's really about finding your own flow and your own way of handling everything. And sometimes things will suffer. Sometimes I'm not eating as healthy as I want to, or I'm not working out as often, or I'm not, getting the things that I love to do done. But it's still something that I try to work on every day.
It's funny, how you mentioned what may work for one person may not work for another. And it's like I knew that, but it didn't fully sink in until I started my natural hair journey because I would spend hours watching YouTube videos on girls with natural hair using certain products and doing certain styles. And I would spend all this money buying the whole complete hairline of this product, that product, and it would not work for my hair.
Right.
And then I try to narrow it down to like hair texture. Okay, do we have the same, my hair is like a mix of 4B and 4C and okay, but it's not working for me. So I've had to figure it out on my own. And I'm realizing it's just like life. Like it doesn't matter. You could have the exact same ingredients. It doesn't mean it's going to work the exact same way for you.
That is so true. And I love that you use the natural hair journey as an example, because that has been my experience too with my natural hair. I'm like, okay, this product doesn't work for me. And I have products right now in my cabinet that I definitely tried and it didn't work, and they're just sitting, So I definitely agree with you. I do find that we're in an age where people want sort of like the quick fix or the quick answer.
Yes.
Or the step
We're in a microwave generation. Everyone wants the instant results.
That's right. And it doesn't work like that because, like we said, it's what works for you may not work for me. So I do feel like a lot of people waiting on that magical, recipe for success. It really is sticking to it and learning as you go along, because the things that I have could have worked for me in my situation. And even one thing I've noticed is that people don't necessarily tell you the whole story. So going back to, say, for example, the natural hair journey, we may see someone using XYZ products, but then we don't even realize that that company paid them to promote who knows what else is going on behind the scenes that may not be, very clear to us as viewers. So that's why I'm like, okay, I love traveling, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of exhaustion. Sometimes, I miss being at home on a weekend with my husband because I'm out working, traveling. So there's a lot of things that look great on the outside, but there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. Yeah.
Speaking of, so what adversities have you had to experience to get to where you are today? Because people see the success story, they see the highlight reel on social media and the beautiful photos, but
Yes.
What adversities have you had to deal with to even get to those points?
Okay, where do I begin? There's a lot of adversity. I think the main one is building a solid team. I think that is a challenge. I do believe that to reach the level of success that, a lot of people see online, it takes a team. It's more than just one person being self-made and doing it all on their own. I believe in that. It's not possible. So I think for me, a challenge has been finding people that are reliable, that are willing to sort of make the team stronger. And I do feel like I have a way of sort of I just love people. Like I love everyone to the point maybe that isn't always wise. And so I like to just, welcome everyone with open arms, but sometimes it doesn't work out. And then I'm sort of stuck trying to pick up the pieces. So I definitely want to, I don't know, I think I want to just have a better understanding of taking the time to vet people out before sort of, welcoming them into my team, into my business. I do have a solid team now, but it did take some time to get there. So that was a challenge initially, and it still is, because I want to build a team that I can depend on, and I want to grow that team even more than it is now. So that's been a big one.
Has there been any, outside of the business, has there been any major life adversities that you've had to overcome to say, you know what, I got through that, but I was still able to pursue my business and to be as successful as I am today?
I think on a personal level, it would have to be going back to the finding balance. So as a business owner, it's easy to just try to do it all. And I realized I couldn't do it all. I needed to have time for myself. I am definitely an independent person, but then at the end of the day, I do need to spend time with the people who are important to me. I value my family. I value my marriage. What I think I struggled with most was just finding a balance. Even now, it's really hard. I don't even know how people do it. Children, husband, job, being your own boss. I don't know, because
it's a lot of work.
It is. I listen, as I don't know. I have friends who are, they are just killing it in the mom game. And I'm like, wow, that is a whole nother layer. And so for me, I'm still trying to figure it out. But my whole focus for 2020, which is, at this point, I think people think 2020 is far away. It isn't.
It's not.
Corner. Yes, it is. And I'm already bookings for 2020 and bookings for 2021. I need to realize that, okay, I gotta right now, even before my calendar fills up, I need to mark off the weekends that I will not be working. You know what I mean? So for example, this year I worked on my birthday, which was a Saturday. No, it was a Friday. But I love working. So sometimes it doesn't even feel
because it's your passion. You're passionate about it. So it doesn't feel like tough work. Like if you had to go into a 9 to 5, you're excited about it. And the blessings are obviously showing if you're booked into 2021 right now. That's a blessing.
And I'm so blessed. You're right.
There are people that are calling themselves photographers and can't get a booking for next weekend. You are booked into next year.
That's right.
That's a beautiful blessing.
It's a huge blessing, and I don't take it for granted. And what I've learned now is that even though that is a huge blessing, it takes a toll on me emotionally, mentally. I do get very drained. Like it's if I don't take a moment and just say, okay, I'm gonna take, a weekend off every month or whatever the case may be. If I don't do that intentionally, I will literally work every single day of the year. And then this year, the biggest challenge for me is, at the halfway mark. So in June, I was like burnt out. I was like, I'm so tired. I cannot pack my bag one more time. Like I was really, really tired. And I was like, I do love my job, but if I don't take a moment to fill my cup up, like take
Yes.
and go for a walk and just like do things that are not always tied to my work,
Yes.
I'll be better for it. So for next year, and I have to stick to this because
I'll hold you accountable.
yes, exactly. I have to do this. I have to say, okay, maybe, once a month I'll take a weekend off. Like I'll block it off from now. And so if I do receive an inquiry for that date, maybe I won't take the job. Maybe. Maybe I won't.
To whom much is given, much is required. So
That's
although it's
true.
a beautiful blessing, it comes with a lot. I totally understand that. So
Definitely.
have you had any mentors or coaches that have helped you along the way?
I have. So being that I was in the academic world for so long, I have 3 degrees, none in photography, right? So a lot of I've had a lot of women in my life who were great lawyers, great mothers, great boss women in their industries. And they sort of mentored me, not necessarily in photography, but they mentored me to be a professional, to be in service to people, and to just be a boss. I can think of a few. What's interesting in the photography world, I didn't really have as much mentorship and support in the photography world. And I think that's why now I like to teach workshops and I like to be a mentor to other photographers, because I didn't really have that. Not that I didn't try to seek it out. I just didn't get a lot of a response, I guess, which is, I don't know why. I don't know if it's I don't want to speculate, but I don't know. Like why was it so hard for me to find a mentor back then? It was like 10 years
Well,
ago.
maybe because that was your role now. Like that's what you do. You're a mentor. And usually
Mm-hmm.
when we're in positions like that, we want to be able to be of service in areas where we needed help because we
That's right.
realize the value of
Yes.
serving and mentoring and teaching because we didn't have that.
Exactly. And I mean, I just think about all the things I could have avoided, in terms of how to serve a client, how to run a business, that I could have avoided if I did have someone that I could run things by. So a lot of it was just me teaching myself how to do it. And now I do value being that resource for other photographers and business owners.
I want to touch on a few things that you just said because you have 3 degrees and none in
Mm-hmm.
photography, and you didn't have any support or mentorship in photography, yet you were
Right.
able to find success and such continued blessings that you have bookings going into 2021, and you are
Yes.
now mentoring in that field. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that speaks volumes to not only your gift and your passion and your purpose of helping others to share their stories, but there are people out here that are saying, "Oh, well, I can't do this because," or "I need to go back to school for this because," or "I don't have support, so
Mm-hmm.
I can't." Like, there are so many excuses,
Yes.
but like, hello, 3 degrees, none in photography, no mentorship
Yeah.
in photography, but there's success for you in that industry, and you're now mentoring. That speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you. I do
You're
find
welcome.
a lot of people make excuses. I've always wanted people to know that it's possible. And I do try through, workshops, whatever it is that I do, with my mentees. I always try to encourage them to just go out there and do something. So even if it's
Mhm.
necessarily where you want to be, you have to just keep moving forward. Take baby steps,
Action.
you know. Yeah, you got to do
Yeah.
something. You can't just be sad or lament the fact that you don't have, I don't have this camera, I don't have this lens, I don't have this client. I don't like, no. I remember when I started, I took my best friend out. I'm like, I'm gonna take your picture today. I took my brother out. I'm gonna take your picture. I took my mom. I took any willing person I got in front of my camera, and I put those photos on Facebook. This is before Instagram became popular, right? So, and I was sharing photos that I took, and literally they weren't great. I look back and I'm like, these are not great, but at that time, I wasn't getting paid. I just put it out there. And I started getting interest because I guess I was showing a passion for it. And people were like, oh, these aren't bad. Can you do this event? Can you do my wedding? Can you do my, you know, whatever birthday? And it really just started there. And I taught myself through the internet. Like, you know, I really just started learning from different people that I admired. And I had virtual mentors, you know, through the internet and different forums, but it wasn't the traditional mentorship that I probably needed at the time. But it didn't stop me. It didn't stop me. And you don't need it.
Exactly. It didn't stop
You
you. And
don't need a
that's
degree.
the point that I'm on. Like, doubt
Yeah,
removes action, action removes doubt. Like, you
correct.
took action.
Exactly. I did. I really did. That's one thing I can say I did. And I tried my best not to compare myself to other people. If I compared my photos to the people that I admired, I would have quit because I was nowhere near there when I started out. But there was, you know, a market for the people that valued what I was doing, even at the level that I was at starting out.
Right.
So
Right.
I definitely love telling people to just get out, you know, take a picture every day. Take a picture every day if you can and just see where it goes, you know. Don't yourself, don't put, you know, huge expectations on yourself. Just go out there and create. That's what artists do. They create without any inhibitions. So,
I love that. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're traveling the world, you're married, you're,
Mhm.
serving and mentoring and coaching and doing workshops. What does Samantha's self-care routine look like?
I try my best to be at church on Sunday.
hmm
Even
No,
if
you're laughing,
not,
but that's a big deal.
listen, I need to sing. I need to praise the Lord.
hmm
Even if it's just, you know, something as small as, like, sometimes I'll watch online if I can't make it.
Right.
Um, but I do find that that helps to fill me up. And I also have a way of, it helps me feel inspired. It helps me realize that I'm serving a higher power. Like this is all possible because of the Lord that I serve, you know? So
Right.
I'm really big on praising, giving thanks, gratitude. I also like to work out. Not really, actually. I'm lying. I don't like to work. Let me just take that back. I don't like to
you
work out.
you don't like it, but you know it's
No,
good for you.
but I know I have to do it. So let me just reiterate. I definitely try to get that in, even if it's just, sometimes I'm so lazy and I'll just do like 30 minutes on the elliptical. To me, that's super lazy because I spent,
It's still better than nothing.
it's better than nothing. I agree, but it's, I spent most of my life as an athlete. So I went to university to play volleyball, and so the type of workouts that I did as an athlete, it's not that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh,
hmm
shame, but at least I do something from time to time. I try to get that in.
Good.
But yeah, those are the main things I try to do for self care.
I came across this article in Reader's Digest that basically says that your favorite type of shoe says a lot about your personality.
Mm.
And it's no secret. that I love stilettos, hence the brand. I walk in my stilettos.
Yeah. You look good in them too, by the way. Let me just put that out
Thank
there.
you. Thank you. You know, I can't do a 5K run in them like I used to, but you know, I can stand and take a picture and then take them off.
There you go. Yep. Always have a backup pair of flats.
Yes, I always have my flats in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you, Samantha, is
Mm-hmm.
what is your favorite type of shoe? Is it a boot, a running shoe, a wedge, a flip-flop, a pump, a mule? What's your favorite type?
I think I really like my sneakers. I do find though, I do try to dress up from time to time, but chances are I'm in the airport in some sneakers. Um, I also I try to be comfortable as much as I can. I do suffer from like foot pain a lot. So I'm like, I try to stay away from things that hurt my feet. Unless I really have to. If I'm dressed up, I'll wear some heels. But I love sneakers. I love Chuck Taylors. I love, anything that keeps me comfortable
Okay.
throughout the day.
So sneaker buffs get along with everyone. Sometimes you're an old soul and sometimes you're the life of the party. For sneaker buffs, age truly is but a number because you get along with everyone. The sneaker
Love
is
that.
very versatile, a very open person willing to explore a lot of options and different ideas. They're energetic and ageless. They're really not young or old. They seem to move fluidly through age-specific groups.
That sounds like me.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It really does.
Okay.
Yeah, it really does.
So before we go to the final segment of the show, I want you to tell everyone where they can stay connected with you online.
Okay. So I am always on Instagram. So I'll start with that. It's Instagram at Samantha Clarke. And Clarke has an E at the end. And I'm also on Facebook, Samantha Clarke Photography. And I have a YouTube channel, which is also Samantha Clarke. And my website, which is where I have all my work, my portfolio, and that is samantha-clarke.com.
Perfect. So I will have the direct link to all of your socials and your website in the details section under your episode, so they don't have to search too far. They can just click and connect with you immediately.
Awesome.
So the final segment of the show is called A Walk in Wisdom, and I just ask you a couple of reflection questions, and you answer with whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
So let's start with name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
I recently read, what is it called? Brand Story. What is it called? I just read it, but it's Story Brand. What is it? I want to give you the exact title. Like I know Story Brand is in there and it is super powerful and it just changed the way that I view marketing my business from a different perspective. And I love it. It's definitely been powerful for my business.
Okay. What have you become better at saying no to in the last 5 years? And that could be distractions, invitations, family.
I have become better at saying no to certain opportunities. So, just going back to what we were talking about with finding balance in my life. So, instead of filling up every waking moment with work, I have done a better job of just saying no when I realize that I have to pour back into myself and make sure I'm not giving from an empty cup.
That's powerful. Okay. And last question. What impact do you want to have on the world?
That is amazing. I love that question. I want to change the view of love and family in the greater world. I want people to see that love knows no bounds and that family is more than just what we may see on television or online, but there's so much more behind the story of individuals and in their lives.
That is beautiful. Wow. Samantha, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to be on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all of our listeners, until next time, subscribe to our newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com. And if you've received value from today's show, share it with a friend that needs to hear Samantha's testimony. Be sure to screenshot this week's episode and tag us on Instagram. You can tag Samantha at Samantha Clarke, and don't forget the E at the end, or myself at The Real McKinney Smith. And send us in your guest suggestions at info@awalkinmystilettos.com. To all my faith walkers out there, continue to walk in greatness in your stilettos in a manner worthy of your calling.